Philippine Information Agency, Kapihan na Zamboanga. Sharing with you timely, accurate, and relevant information regarding government programs, projects, and activities. Catch us every Thursday at 4 p.m. on e-media.
Buenos dias, Zamboanga. Welcome sa PIA Kapihan na Zamboanga sa SM City Minpro. Hatid ng Philippine Information Agency, Mindanao Communicators Network, SM City Minpro, MCTV, and e-media. We are live at PIA Western Mindanao Facebook page and other government agencies' Facebook pages. Also, we are live at PRO9 as a Norton News Flash, 1TV Philippines, ISA TV Channel 17, PCH Cable TV, and via cable televisions here in Zamboanga City via MCTV and e-media. Happy Kapihan po sa lahat ng ating mga viewers here in Zamboanga Peninsula. Kapihan na Zamboanga program will discuss important topics that will help you make more informed decisions wherever you are. Ngayong buwan ng Hulyo po ay ginugunita rin natin ang ating National Disaster Resilience Month. Kaya paghahandaan po natin ang kahit anumang sakuna na mararanasan natin ngayon, hindi lamang dito sa Zamboanga City but in the entire Zamboanga Peninsula. Malalaman natin ang mga programa and mga services po ng Zamboanga City Risk Reduction and Management Office. Makakasama po natin ang ating panauhin. We have Sir Abdel Azad Kanti, the Training Officer po, Deputy of Operations and Warnings Division and Emergency Medical Service Supervisor ng Zamboanga City DRRMO. Welcome sa ating program, sir.
Buenos dias po, ma'am, and thank you very much for granting us this opportunity, ma'am, to be able to share some of our insight, ma'am, so far as the Disaster Risk Reduction Management Office is concerned. Thank you.
Thank you very much din po, sir, sa inyong time for this opportunity that we can inform our people. Gaya po ng na-mention ko, ang month of July, we are celebrating or we are observing the National Disaster Resilience Month. So dyan po ang ating topic, ang ating mga pag-uusapan ngayong araw. So can you share with us po, how does the Zamboanga City DRRMO typically observe po yung ating Disaster Resilience Month here in the city?
Yung National Disaster Resilience Month, ma'am, is a celebration or is an activity that is being celebrated all throughout the Philippines. So just like everybody else in the Philippines, ma'am, the way Zamboanga City Disaster Risk Reduction Management Office or Zamboanga City attempts to celebrate the National Disaster Resilience Month is we generally attempt to emphasize and encourage every Zamboangueño to participate in building a nation that is resilient, ma'am. Particularly, during the celebration of the National Disaster Resilience Month, we emphasize and encourage not just every Filipino but specifically every Zamboangueño to participate in activities on educational campaigns, trainings, and community engagement so that yung magiging end product po natin, ma'am, is ma-increase natin yung capacities ng every Filipino or every Zamboangueño po, ma'am.
Okay. That's good to know, sir, na actually hindi lang during this month ginagawa natin to. Quarterly, we are conducting our drills, yung nakasanayan po natin na nationwide simultaneous earthquake drills na isinasagawa. And we can see na very active din yung ating City LGU, yung CDRRMO natin in conducting these drills, encouraging all our local government units offices, the schools to participate nga. And that's the main purpose natin, for everyone to be resilient. Not only for this month of July lang, but every day, resilient tayo sa kahit anumang disaster that will come sa ating syudad. Sir, what are the key disaster po na risk that Zamboanga City is most vulnerable to, and how is CDRRMO, the city CDRRMO natin, addressing them?
It generally depends on how you would look at disaster risks po, ma'am. Medyo mahirap din po siya, ma'am, mag-identify ng isa po talaga, ma'am. So as I said, ma'am, it varies from one factor to another and it is also dependent on how you look at disaster risks. So when you say ang probability ng Zamboanga City, how vulnerable Zamboanga City is to experiencing a certain hazard, ma'am, you could easily say probably flooding. Kasi in terms of how frequent, how common it can occur sa community natin, ma'am, definitely flooding is going to be up there. However, if you would also be factoring in yung damages that it causes in the city kahit hindi siya masyadong frequent yung kanyang occurrence. However, masyadong extensive or masyadong complex yung kanyang extent. Pwede nating isali, ma'am. Like say for example, you can go back as far as the 2013 Zamboanga siege. Yung 2013 Zamboanga siege where we had, I think, more than 10,000 households were destroyed, more than 120,000 families were displaced. Tapos yung deaths niya, ma'am, is more than, I think, depende kung saan ka rin maghahanap ng statistics, ma'am, pero what is widely accepted, yung affectation ng Zamboanga siege is more than 200 individuals were died, both from the government and majority from the people who attempted to come in and cause havoc in Zamboanga City. So Zamboanga siege is definitely up there. Yung 2019 pandemic natin is definitely nandoon din, more than 1,000 deaths. Almost the entire city was generally affected. And then pwede din yung 2022 na tropical storm na Paeng, ma'am. Yung sa tropical storm Paeng, I think almost 50,000 individuals yung naging more than 50 barangays, almost 100,000 individuals, and try to imagine, ma'am, more than I think almost 400 million, ma'am, in terms of damages yung na-cost niya, ma'am. So it generally depends on how you look at disaster risks. As I've said, if frequency is among the top criteria for considering disaster risks, flooding is definitely there. But if you would factor in some other factors, things like the pandemic, yung 2013 siege, nandyan din sila, ma'am, sa top. Kung sabihin din natin, ma'am, how is the Zamboanga City Disaster Risk Reduction Management Council is addressing it? Please understand that Zamboanga City Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Office is not by itself the one who is attempting to perform DRRM activities for the city of Zamboanga. It would take a whole of government approach. That's why we have a council, and there are different members of the council from government agencies, local, national, regional, tapos may mga NGOs din tayo, volunteer organizations, and etc. So what the Zamboanga City Disaster Risk Reduction Management Council is attempting to perform is to, as much as we can, eliminate the risks. Yun pa rin yung the best investment na pwede natin gawin sa ating mga communities, ma'am. I'm not saying na hindi tayo magbigay ng importance doon sa ibang thematic areas ng DRRM. However, as much as we can as a community, we should attempt to prevent yung disaster from ever happening talaga sa ating kwan. So that is why, in terms of addressing it, in the general sense of the word, of attempting to address the problems that we have sa flooding, including other hazards, ma'am, in the general sense, pag flooding ang pag-uusapan po natin, ma'am, or hydrometeorological hazards in general, how the Zamboanga City Disaster Risk Reduction Management Council is addressing it, number one, we are attempting to come up with a comprehensive drainage plan. That is, nandyan po talaga yan, ma'am. And then, apart from that, we are even considering insofar as relocating some communities po. Kasi we have to recognize and we have to understand na may mga communities talaga, ma'am, in Zamboanga City, whether we like it or not, maliit na or konting pag-ulan po lang, ma'am, binabaha na siya. And a lot of factors ay papasok po dyan, ma'am. Like number one talaga, ma'am, is rising sea level, which is, this is substantiated by a lot of research that was performed by multiple agencies around the world, including yung mga experts dito sa Philippines is agreeing sa ganung study, ma'am, na one of the contributing factors as to why nagbabaha, not just yung Zamboanga City, but in many parts of the Philippines is because of the rising sea level, ma'am. So, partly because of that reason, ma'am, kaya nagko-consider po talaga tayo na medyo long-term plan po talaga siya, ma'am. We are trying to consider yung pag-relocate. And as with the intent of the National Disaster Resilience Month, apart from yung comprehensive drainage plan, yung implementation ng infrastructure po, including yung consideration of relocation, andyan pa rin talaga, ma'am, yung, of course, yung mag-conduct ka ng educational campaigns where you would have multiple types of advocacies to help strengthen the capacities and eliminate the vulnerabilities of each of the citizens, and as much as we can po, ma'am. It is not a secret, ma'am, kung paano po natin i-tackle po talaga yung disasters sa Philippines. It is not a secret. I think based on our experiences and our understanding of events in Zamboanga City, ma'am, if you would like to be effective in managing disasters and the hazards that you have in your community, ma'am, the one great thing that you can do is make sure that every individual in the city or in the community is empowered. They themselves would know what to do or how to fend for themselves. If you are in a situation where every individual in Zamboanga City knows how to fend for themselves, like they know how to evacuate, they know how to perform first aid, they know kung saan sila mag-evacuate, ma'am. If you will be able to achieve kahit half lang, ma'am, of that situation, you will be in a better place.
So how do we do that, sir? Paano natin ma-empower, no, na yun, kahit half lang of our community ay ganun po ka-empowered when it comes or when in times of disaster?
One of the solutions, ma'am, that we are really trying to look at, and we see na parang pabalik-balik siya, ma'am, nagiging perennial po siya, ma'am, is we have to make sure that everyone buys into the problem, that everybody recognizes the problem. The problem with Filipinos, I'm very sorry to say that, hindi lang, by the way, Filipinos, even government agencies, kahit kami sa DRM is guilty din dito, ma'am. One of the inadequacies that we see is a lot of individuals, not just in Zamboanga City, but Filipinos in general, is we don't really see or we don't really recognize that the problem exists. So if we don't see the problem, ma'am, parang binabaliwala lang po natin, ma'am. Ang nagiging problem, we don't try to come up with solutions to it. Part of the reason po yan, ma'am, kung bakit, since President Marcos Sr. po, ma'am, where yung outlook po natin on disaster management is reactive. Part of the reason kung bakit naging proactive na po yung naging advocacy, ma'am, kasi dapat sana ganyan yung Pilipino po, ma'am, or yung mga Zamboangueños in general. So like number one, ma'am, we would like individuals in Zamboanga City to have recognition of the problem, that the problem is really there. Disasters can happen to anyone, anytime, and anywhere. So kung ikaw, ma'am, na individual, if you understand that the problem is there, it is natural for anyone to come up with a solution. Di ba, ma'am? Even before you buy a property, you would already consider, yung mga problems. Like, iisipin mo na, kung bibili ako ng lupa dito, should I buy a property or establish a house dito sa area na to, knowing na binabaha to? If you understand yung mga ganyang klaseng dynamics in our community po, ma'am, so, iiwasan mo as much as you can. So number one po, ma'am, we would like everyone to have an understanding that problems sa disasters, whether we like it or not. So as long as you are situated in the Philippines, so as long as you are a Zamboangueño, ma'am, one way or the other, disasters can still be experienced. So we would like everyone to have recognition of the problem. We would like everyone to please participate. Anyway, especially kami sa City Disaster Risk Reduction Management Council, all of our programs are actually free. So,
Free training.
yes, free yung training
Free
from
lahat.
regardless, whether it's on life support, on disaster management, on earthquake drills, and etc. ma'am. And everything that we can do that has anything to do with disaster management, pwede po namin yung gawin. So, nandun po, ma'am, recognition of the problem, and we encourage everyone to please participate. And to my colleagues in the government, sana po, ma'am, like makipagtulungan. Kasi as I've said, ma'am, the general idea for us to be able to tackle disasters properly talaga, ma'am, is everybody, the whole of government and the whole of community should participate. That's the best way. That's the best solution to put ourselves in a situation where we have a great chance of managing disasters po, ma'am. So,
Tama po kayo, sir, no, when you mention na whole of government approach talaga siya. I know na yung CDRMO, hindi rin po tayo ganun kadami. Yung manpower natin, hindi rin. Sa gobyerno, ganun rin po. No? Konti lang din, hindi rin sapat yung ating mga personnel or manpower nga para makatulong, maiabot yung ating mga services sa ating communities. That's why we also need the support of the local government units natin. When you mentioned that you offer free seminars, free trainings, free lahat ng natin, no, yung mga talks natin. So, pwedeng-pwede yung ating mga local government units to initiate. Sila na mismo yung mag-initiate for their constituents, for their local barangay, sa kanilang community na imbitahan yung ating CDRMO para makapag-conduct, no, ng disaster preparedness. Lalong-lalo na if they are aware na yung kanilang community ay madalas na binabaha or pina-flood, no, victims of floodings. So yun po yung ating gustong siguro ma-share, no, sa ating mga LGUs na they are actually willing to willing po, no, na mag-participate yung ating CDRRMO sa kanilang mga communities para lahat po tayo ay maging informed during disasters. So yun yung gusto nating siguro yung mga ma-address, no, one of our solutions, no, para ma-address nga yung ating disaster preparedness. Pero meron ba tayo, sir, na kinakailangan na mga technologies or meron ba tayong mga innovation na ginagamit ngayon sa ating syudad, sa ating Zamboanga City para sa ating disaster monitoring and responses natin?
Apart from the existing technologies, ma'am, that is already in existence with other government agencies, these innovations that I will be enumerating po, ma'am, these are some of the innovations that our office has trailblazed and spearheaded po, ma'am. And this is a result of the research that we have conducted in our community and what we have found. May mga gaps kasi kaming nakita. And based from these identified gaps, nag-create po kami ng technologies and, as you said, innovations that would help manage disasters in general. So we basically make use of these technologies for monitoring disasters and helping our disaster response to become efficient po. So one of the innovations that our office has created is we came up with a technology on early warning systems po, ma'am. I am sure the term early warning systems is already very common in the Philippines or in the world. But what we have created for Zamboanga City, the design that we have created, ma'am, is something that is new. Yung parameters that we are trying to identify for monitoring disasters are generally the same. So, mag-monitor siya ng water level, the amount of rain that comes out from the sky and nahuhulog, and etc. It is the same. The parameters are the same. However, the technology that we use to transmit the information from those sensors that is going to be distributed in vital installations in Zamboanga City, the mode of delivery of the data, ma'am, is something that is unique. Like, say, for example, we will be utilizing satellite internet technology to transmit data po, ma'am. So the data that will be transmitted by these sensors that is going to be situated everywhere in Zamboanga City is going to be real time. Wala siyang delay. So compared to other technologies that is already in existence, ma'am, may delay po siya sa transmission ng data. So we would be using that. We would be using radio communication sa pag-transmit ng data, and plus yung existing na existing na technology for transmitting data, ma'am, which is through SMS and etc. po.
Ano na yan, sir?
Hindi pa, ma'am, as a matter of fact, hindi pa po siya nabili. But we are certainly hoping within the year po, ma'am, we will be able to procure them and we will be able to implement these technologies, ma'am, so that these technologies would complement the existing technologies that were implemented by the Department of Science and Technology po, ma'am. So that is insofar as monitoring is concerned. For our response, ma'am, and disaster awareness in general po, ma'am, though this is kasi, ma'am, nag-conduct ka kasi ng interview ng masyadong maaga. We were supposed to announce the launching of a mobile application po, ma'am, come July, during the celebration of the National Disaster Resilience Month. This is one of the key activities that we will be performing for the month of July, is we will be launching a mobile application where individuals would receive push notifications coming from our office regarding anything that is related to disaster. So say for example, even as far as traffic, ma'am, I'm sure ma'am you have Facebook on your phone. Kung nakasleep yung phone mo, di ba parang
Nagno-notify pa rin.
magno-notify na may
post.
activity
Oo.
doon sa social media account niyo po, ma'am. So that is going to be the same. We will be using this same principle po, ma'am, doon sa application namin, where we would have the capability to make announcements and pronouncements to all those who have subscribed or who have downloaded the mobile application. The name of the mobile application, by the way po, ma'am, is Salva Vida. It is, if you directly translate it into English, is
So
to
it's
say...
very localized talaga, no?
Yes.
Zamboangueño.
Yes, ma'am. So, the Salva Vida mobile application po, ma'am, would give us the capability to inform those individuals who have downloaded the application. We would have the capability to inform them regarding weather advisories or any problems, ma'am, as I've said, relating to disasters. The mobile application also, ma'am, offline or online po, ma'am, meron tayong nilagay ng mga IEC materials. Kasi we have to understand and recognize, ma'am, whether we like it or not. Karamihan sa atin, kung magbibigay ka ng pamphlets, brochures, or a book, hindi nila mabasahin. Everybody would like to have things nandun sa kamay po nila, ma'am. So, understanding that principle po, ma'am, ang ginawa namin, instead of printing out manuals, which we actually still perform, nagpiprint pa rin po kami ng manuals, pero to complement yung ganong klaseng approach, ma'am, ang ginawa namin, nilagay namin sa mobile application, the things that you can do before, during, and after a disaster. And we oversimplified everything so that everybody can understand. The only problem lang na hindi pa namin nagawa for now is hindi pa namin siya na-translate to local dialects. Sa ngayon, it is in English. So apart from that, ma'am, maraming functions yung mobile application na yun. So that's 2 po, ma'am. Next po, ma'am. Since kanina po, ma'am, we have been talking about empowering individuals and communities so that they would know how to fend for themselves in times of disasters. Historically, ma'am, one of the problems po talaga natin dito sa Pilipinas po, ma'am, is resources. Resources, equipment, supplies. Apart from yung know-how or yung skills talaga, ma'am. So, on 2018, ma'am, we launched in since 2018 and it is still ongoing and by God's grace and permission, this is not going to stop up until na may maisip kaming mas better pa. Nag-launch po kami, ma'am, ng isang programa which we call the Heart Station Project. This is also something new dito sa Pilipinas. This is actually an innovation. This project was actually awarded multiple times already, even recently, inawardan na naman siya ng civil service. So what it does is, we basically placed a cabinet where it contains emergency medical kits, things that you can make use for first aid. We also placed equipments that you can make use for disaster response. For example, wala pang communication equipments, ma'am, hindi pa namin naisip yun. Kasi meron naman talaga commonly sa mga barangays. However, ang nilagay po namin are equipments and supplies that you can make use for common types of disasters. Like say for example, fire suppression, personal protective equipment. Yun po yung nilagay namin sa different areas in Zamboanga City. Apart from placing those equipment and supplies, we backed it up with training. Everything na nasa loob ng cabinet, ma'am, is free. Every time they would make use of it, they just need to notify us and we would go there to replenish all of the items. Regardless of the types of, wag lang nilang dalhin sa bahay. Okay, so kung saan-saan natin nilagay, as much as gusto naming lagyan lahat ng 98 barangays, medyo marami talaga. So inuna namin, ma'am, yung mga barangays with mataas yung mga risks, who are very prone, who are very vulnerable, or nakita talaga namin na medyo kulang talaga sila sa supplies. Nilagay namin doon. However, the understanding that we had with these areas, kung saan namin nilagay yung mga equipments na yun, we made sure na hindi porket nakalagay po yan dyan na sa'yo yan. Actually, anybody who would require the utilization of that cabinet can just grab items in there. They just have to make sure that kung yung mga dapat isauli is isauli po nila. So that is 3 po, ma'am. Medyo sinasummarize ko na lang po yung pagkuhan. So we have yung early warning systems, the Heart Station Project, the mobile application po, ma'am. And finally, ma'am, all of these things pwede nating i-maximize yung utilization of all of these technologies and innovations once the Zamboanga City Disaster Risk Reduction Management Office says command center is going to be established. All of these technologies are going to be integrated. Not just the new ones, but including the old ones. We made sure na wala po tayong masasayang na mga resources. So that the establishment of the command center would have the capability to integrate the existing and the newly procured and the upcoming technologies. The technologies that we would be placing dyan, including the integration systems that we will be doing for the command center po, ma'am. Kaya niya nang i-integrate, as I said, old technologies and even the technologies for the next decade. So we are trying to make sure that all of these things is pwede nating ma-integrate so that we will be able to achieve interoperability. When you say interoperability, ma'am, this is the ability of each of the factors and the sectors in our community to work together, which is again a factor or a criteria for us to becoming effective when it comes to disaster management. So, of all the technologies that we have, ma'am, I can say ito yung parang top 4 na innovations and technologies that we will be able to make use for disaster monitoring, response, and recovery po, ma'am.
So we have a lot of innovation pala no dito sa Zamboanga City, and it's good to know na may mga ganitong innovation, may mga ganitong ginagawa yung ating CDRRMO dito sa Zamboanga City. And ako personally, yung iba ngayon ko lang narinig, and we are very excited po dito sa ating mobile app no na ilo-launch ngayong month of July for the celebration nga nating Disaster Resilience Month. So we are very excited, and hopefully once it is launched, we can also encourage everyone no, to download the app so that everyone po ay maging aware. So yun na lang po yung ating kailangan din na i-promote no na more and more people will be able to download the app. But i-clarify ko lang, sir, if yung nasa app po ba na yon is for the Zamboanga City residents lang po ba? Yung mga notification po ba na i-release natin doon is basically for Zamboanga City lang po residents concerned?
Primarily, the mobile application po, ma'am, was created for Zamboanga City. However, if your question, can people around the peninsula or the region can make use of the app, and can they still avail of the notifications that is being published doon sa mobile application? The answer is yes. Pwede din po, ma'am. They can make use of the other features. Pwede po nilang gamitin talaga and enjoy yung advantages ng mga features of the mobile application. However, the one thing that they will not be able to enjoy is yung parang citizens app siya, ma'am, kung may gusto kang isumbong. You can make use of the application by just pressing a button, and immediately the command center of Zamboanga City is going to be alerted. Not only alerted, but we would have the means to communicate with you and know your specific location. That is the only feature that they won't be able to enjoy.
What they can do is, kung sa ating mga other local government units would like to replicate it, then they can, no? They can ask or seek assistance from the CDRMO since kayo po yung ating pioneer, no, dito sa region na nagkaroon ng ganitong klaseng innovation. So, they can replicate it.
Yes, ma'am. As a matter of fact, ma'am, the City Disaster Risk Reduction Management Officer, Dr. Elmer Apolinario, is actually encouraging it. Ito lang yung kay Sir Elmer, ma'am. Since this is something that was created by the office through the initiative of Dr. Elmer Apolinario po, ma'am, and his guidance po, ma'am. Ang sabi niya, Del, baka pwedeng i-launch muna natin sa Zamboanga City. Konting bragging rights, and then immediately after that, we'll share the technology definitely to everybody in the Philippines. As a matter of fact po, ma'am, no, swerte talaga itong avenue na to ngayon, ma'am, kasi we're already announcing it right here. Kung tutuus-tuusin, ma'am, nabigyan na po kami ng recognition, ma'am, not just locally, regionally, but including nationally po, ma'am, for the creation of the mobile application. Even without launching it yet. So nabigyan na po kami ng multiple awards regarding that, which I think is proof that the mobile application will definitely be effective or beneficial for the community po, ma'am. So definitely, ma'am, yeah, the technology can be shared. As we said po, ma'am, as soon as we launch it on July, ma'am, anybody who would like to copy, to actually even imitate the application po, ma'am, okay lang po talaga. Ang gusto nga namin, ma'am, gaya ng sabi ng hepe ko mo, ma'am, is everybody in the Philippines would be able to benefit out of the technology that was created by the office po, ma'am.
We are very excited po for the mobile app. Ako po personally, ida-download ko po yan. No? So, sige po, by later po, no, once it is launched, we can encourage everyone. So, we will announce it. No? Siyempre po, mag-a-announce po yung ating ZCDRMO, and of course, kami rin po, we will also announce it for everyone to be aware if it is already available in our mobile stores. No? So with that, sir, beyond po the immediate response, no, what long-term recovery po and rehabilitation efforts ang ginagawa natin ng CDRMO? And I'm sure you mentioned yung ating mga long-term initiatives like the possibility of relocating residents, lalo na sa mga flood-prone areas. So, ano pa po, yung ating mga long-term na recovery plans po for the city?
Of course po, ma'am, as I've mentioned earlier, since it is part of our long-term efforts po, ma'am, ang mga strategies that was mentioned earlier, nandyan pa rin po yan siya, ma'am. We have not yet achieved it yet. Kaya nga siya part. However, has the city in coordination with other agencies, have we already started etong mga efforts na to? Definitely po, ma'am. Like say for example po, ma'am, yung establishment ng comprehensive drainage plan is already in the pipeline. We have already started it, and then some of the systems and infrastructure that is included in the comprehensive drainage plan is actually ginagawa na po siya, ma'am. Pero kung sabihin po nating nandoon na po tayo, ma'am, hindi pa. So like say for example, apart from the comprehensive drainage plan, which is going to be achieved by the implementation of systems and infrastructure to eliminate, mitigate hazards and possible disasters that may happen in the community. Apart from those things, ma'am, as I've said earlier po, ma'am, yung relocation efforts na may mga, in some areas po, ma'am, is nakapag-relocate na po tayo ng individuals, and in some areas din in Zamboanga City, ma'am, our advocacies to encourage individuals to already relocate is already being done. This is in coordination with other office. Again, i-clarify lang po natin, ma'am, yung wrong notion ng community where, trabaho yan ng Disaster Risk Reduction Management Office, etong mga ganito. No, ma'am. Though kami yung lead agency, ma'am, but we only lead in terms of coordination. Sa coordination, ma'am, kami lang po yung nagli-lead ng coordination. Ang member natin agency sa council, ma'am, hindi natin sila tinatanggal, ma'am, sa kanilang natural orientation or yung kanilang mandate talaga. They would still perform that. But in terms, as far as disasters are concerned, in terms of coordination, kami po yung nagli-lead po, ma'am. So, part and parcel of our efforts po, ma'am, as I've said, is yung establishment ng mga plans to include yung incident action plans for each of the barangays and each of the communities in Zamboanga City, establishment or creation of contingency plans, which is ginagawa po yan natin, ma'am, annually. We actually coordinate, participate, and work with each sector in our community, ma'am, from the barangays to the government agencies to the volunteer organizations to come up with these plans. Etong mga plans kasi, ma'am, especially peacetime. When we say peacetime, ma'am, wala pang sakuna. Maganda po yan siyang ginagawa na natin ngayon. Nag-i-invest na po tayo and naglalagay na po tayo ng systems as early as right now para pagdating ng isang sakuna, God forbid, ma'am, we will be in a better situation. We will be able to respond effectively, and as much as we can, we will be able to limit the casualties and the affectation of a disaster in general. So, plans po, ma'am, infrastructure and system, including yung attempt to prevent talaga the community from ever experiencing a disaster, which part of it is relocation po, ma'am, is already there. So, tuloy-tuloy pa rin po yung advocacy po natin, ma'am. And just like everything, just like a lot of things that we have in our community or in our lifetime po, ma'am, we in the Zamboanga City Disaster Risk Reduction Management Office understand that disasters po, ma'am, are also evolving. So hindi ka rin pwedeng mag-stagnate po, ma'am, as somebody who is planning or as somebody who is managing disasters. dapat
Yearly,
cyclical
annually,
din yung pag-update natin yung mga plans, come up with technologies. And to do this, ma'am, as I said, paulit-ulit, hindi po ito sekreto, ma'am. The best way to do this, ma'am, is to really work with the community, ma'am. We strengthen the capacities of all the individuals in our community, and we try to utilize the available resources, kagaya ng other partners po natin, yung government agencies, non-government agencies, volunteers, and etc. po, ma'am. So, medyo mahaba yung aking reply po, ma'am, but if you try to extract yung mga nakalagay doon, basically that is part and
The
parcel
long term.
of the efforts
Yes.
in the long term po, ma'am. Not just for flooding po, ma'am, but including other hazards that are present in our community po,
Yes,
ma'am.
actually po lahat po ng points ninyo no is very useful nga sa pagpapaalam natin sa public that these are the long-term goals not only for from your office but this is for the entire government approach na iba't ibang ahensya po and iba't ibang mga local government units, barangays should also do this for us to be able to have this long-term goals talaga na every individuals will be disaster ready. So lahat po or sana po walang individuals ang maka-experience nga ng disaster because they are already prepared, no? Prepared sa kahit anong sakuna. With that, sir, with the celebration of our National Disaster Prevention Month, ano po yung ating masasabi message po sa lahat ng ating mga communities, individuals who are watching po?
Actually, ma'am, parati rin namin itong sinasabi in every community engagement that we would have, ma'am. We are actually very glad and very thankful po, ma'am, if ever we get to be invited in certain activities po, ma'am. Whether it is to speak about disaster risk reduction management, to share our expertise, including our experiences, ma'am. Any of those sorts, ma'am, actually makes us glad. Natutuwa kami, ma'am. Kasi ibig sabihin, ma'am, number one, people are really starting to really care or be involved sa disaster management. And we really hope na yun po yung reason kung bakit ginagawa po yun nila. So, as part of our message, ma'am, is yun. We are very thankful for their invitation. We would like everybody in the community to please continuously work with our office, including the other members of the council, in trying to manage disasters in our community properly. And for the celebration of the National Disaster Resilience Month, i-announce na lang din namin po, ma'am, we have this activity that we call a rescue summit, ma'am, where there will be multiple forums na ikakandak po natin, ma'am. And we try to involve as much as we can everybody in the community, ma'am, from the academe, all the barangays, the volunteers, government agencies, and etc. po, ma'am. Iba-iba po yung days and iba-iba din yung topics na pinag-uusapan po natin from climate change adaptation, community-based disaster risk reduction and management activities. We would also have activities where we would train and orient individuals on how to respond to disasters or manage disasters in general. We have activities that is dedicated to planners, local chief executives, managers, supervisors, and etc. for disasters. Again, ang tawag po natin, ma'am, is a rescue summit. May mga multiple avenues and forums po tayo that is being conducted. May rescue Olympics din po tayo, ma'am, where everybody in the community gets to participate and compete with each other, not in the primary objective of trying to really defeat. Pero yung attempt dun is to really participate and work with other agencies. Kasi from one agency to the other, they will be represented there to perform activities po, ma'am. And finally, may mga activities kami like Rescue Bowl, where academic institutions or educational institutions would also be competing with each other. We will be testing yung kanilang mga knowledge po, ma'am, sa disaster risk reduction and management. So, those are some of the activities. So, doon sa mga activities din na ginagawa po, ma'am, ng Zamboanga City Disaster Risk Reduction Management Office in partnership with the members of the Disaster Council, the local government, the regional offices, and the national government, ma'am. Insofar as those activities are concerned, ma'am, we strongly encourage every Zamboangueño or every Filipino for that matter to participate po, ma'am. Huwag po kayong matakot. All of these activities are going to be free. So
Details po, saan po namin yung specific details po, the venue, the date?
normally since this is not the first time na ginawa po natin, ma'am, I am sure some of the barangays or some sectors
Will be
in our
posting.
community are already aware. And apart from that po, ma'am, we would also be posting it in our social media accounts. And definitely po, ma'am, every sector in Zamboanga City is going to receive an invitation coming from an office para malaman po nila, ma'am, yung venue, including the other details of those activities that we just mentioned. So, for those activities that is being initiated by our office, ma'am, in coordination with other agencies, we encourage every Filipino or every Zamboangueño to participate in those activities. And while you are there po, ma'am, try to make use of your time na nandun na po kayo and learn as much as you can. And another thing po, ma'am, we always encourage, though sinasabi na po namin to, ma'am, doon sa mga avenues na yun, sasabihin na rin namin dito sa platform na to, na everything na pinag-uusapan po natin doon sa mga avenues na yun, including the other activities that you guys get to participate, please make sure that everything that you learn from there is going to be shared doon sa family niyo po. That is very important.
Ma-multiply yung ating information
Yes po, ma'am.
dissemination.
Kasi ma'am, ultimately what we would want is not just the individual, but including the families in our community are empowered. They know what to do before, during, and after a disaster po. So, thank you very much.
Thank you very much po. Meron nga po kaming paniniwala na empowered, an informed Filipino is an empowered Filipino. So dapat po informed tayo for us to be able to empower the people. Thank you very much po from
Thank you very
the
much.
Zamboanga City Disaster Risk Reduction Management Office. Maraming salamat. We have with us Sir Abdel Azad Kanti. Napaka fruitful po ng ating conversation ngayon. Napakarami po nating natutunan ngayon sa ating programa at marami rin po tayong aabangan ng mga innovation and programs po from the city CDRRMO natin dito sa Zamboanga City na aabangan natin ngayong celebration po natin ng National Disaster Resilience Month celebration. Maraming salamat po once again, and of course nagpapasalamat po tayo sa ating Zamboanga CDRRMO din na head natin. We have Dr. Elmir Apolinario for this opportunity. Thank you very much po. And hopefully we can have him sa ating program soon then. Thank you very much po ulit, and thank you po sa ating mga viewers. If you have questions po, don't hesitate to ask po our page or the page po ng ating CDRMO dito sa Zamboanga City. With that, nagpapasalamat po tayo sa lahat ng ating mga manonood and sa ating following sponsors. We have Dunkin, Karimadon, Camiseta, and Penguin, all available here at SM City Minpro. And sa ngalan pong muli ng PIA Director General Catherine Chloe De Castro and PIA Regional Director Ms. Noemi Adaga, ito si Myra Espinosa, and we will see each other po sa ating mga susunod pang Kapihan na Zamboanga sa SM City Minpro. Muchísimas gracias.
Philippine Information Agency, Kapihan na Zamboanga. Sharing with you timely, accurate, and relevant information regarding government programs, projects, and activities. Catch us every Thursday at 4 p.m. on eMedia.